Hey guys, what's up? Jared here, Dex and Dice, Ramblings of an LGS owner. And today's video is going to be about how not all buyers are the same. And just bear with me here. I heard you just, I heard the eye roll. Okay? So just bear with me. Because one of the most, one of the more, I won't say most, one of the more common questions I'll get while talking to people about like buying collections, trade rates, etc., stuff like that, is like they're like, well, why does little Johnny down the road, on Facebook offer 80%, and then the other shop over there offers me 60, and then there's another dude who just says, no, I don't want it at all. And pretty, it's pretty simple if you are used to if you are accustomed to being in this hobby for longer than 90 days, okay? Not all buyers are going to be the same. They're not running the same business. They're not running, they're not taking the same, risks. They're not trying to accomplish the same goal. Like, everyone you run into typically in this business, if will have their own little goals that may not align with what you think they should be or with what you have experienced dealing with someone else, right? Because let's be honest, TCG Player exists, eBay exists, the Card Collector app or whatever it exists. There's a multitude of other apps and sites and everything that people can go to get an idea of what the card is they're trying to sell you, or the collection, whatever. And like, most people think that it's worth what that number says, right? This card is worth $100. It's worth $100, and that's not really how it works. Like, the value isn't changing necessarily, but like the buyer and their particular goals or circumstances or whatever, that's actually what's changing versus what the static price of the card is, right? So your card might be worth $100, and a collector might actually pay you that $100 just right out the bat because they're a collector. They want the card. It's part of their personal collection. It'll help flesh it out or finish it. Like, if it'll help them finish a collection, most likely you're going to get the full value of that card, right? They don't care about profit. They don't care about market swings. They don't care if the card just got unbanned and it's worth, 15% more, or they don't care if it did get banned and it's dick in the dirt price, right? They don't care about that. They don't care about the margins. The collector isn't buying an investment. They're not buying something for like a portfolio or something. They're buying happiness, A legitimate collector, not an investor bro, but a legitimate collector who's going to, I don't know, have a master set of something in like basic rarities or whatever in a binder. He's going to sleeve it into a binder, and that's where it's going to stay for the rest of its life. And he might pull it out and look through it every now and again, but they're buying like peace of mind, happiness. Okay, this is done. I'm good. Move on to the next thing, right? But as we all know, not everyone is actually a collector, like a true collector. Not everyone is a collector. Then you ease into what's been lovingly called the backpack vendor, right? We all know these people. They go to conventions and everything. They're outside in the parking lots in conventions selling stuff out of their cars, their backpacks, hence the name. They might even come into your shop sometimes and try to sell stuff out of their backpack. But, like, point being is that the backpack vendor, and I don't mean that in a derogatory manner, it's just what you guys are, and you know it. So anyways, the backpack vendor has little to no overhead, right? They're looking for fast turnover. Like, they're looking to be where everything is, where it's easy access, all that good stuff. So there's going to be they're going to be in conventions, buying and selling. They're going to be haunting Facebook groups and marketplace, trying to buy and sell. Sorry, there's like an eyelash playing with my eyeball there. Um, like I said, their overhead doesn't really exist. There's like no rent, there's no payroll, no utilities, none of that stuff. And this is why your backpack vendor can typically pay anywhere from that 80 to 90% or whatever, because they literally have no true expenses on top of what they already have, right? Maybe a little bit extra because they got to spend a little bit extra money to procure the product and everything, but like on top of their normal bills, they don't have another set of bills on top of that, okay? That's why they can offer what they offer. Like a backpack and a storefront, they're not the same business model at all, right? It's night and day, just boop, done. No real like comparison there except for they sell cardboard, right? But even a backpack vendor, they're different than online sellers, right? Um, because then you're talking about someone who has like an online storefront, be it TCG Player, eBay, maybe their own website or whatever, they get direct sales, all that good stuff. Most of these kinds of people already, what can I say? Already are their own brand, their own entity. They've already laid the groundwork to have their own, like, I don't know, built-in audience, built-in customer base, all that good stuff, right? They're not your backpack vendor. They have, God, more legitimacy, we'll call it that, right? Um, so they're not necessarily going to be able to match the backpack vendor. They can probably get really close, but your online sellers, they're worried more about, like, let's be honest, fees, like the platform fees they have, shipping fees, returns, the general just labor that will go behind having your own online store or whatever, because you still got to procure product, you've got to sort it, label it, scan it in, put it online, ship it out, file it away, all that good stuff. You still have to put in some decent amount of work, believe it or not. It's not digging ditches, but it's still work, right? Because now you're getting more into, this is a job, right? So your regular online sellers might not be able to match a backpack seller because of, what I just mentioned, right? Because, like, once you start getting more into leaving the backpack vendor and straying into online seller territory and beyond, a card sold is not exactly money earned, right? That card that you sold for $50 might have merely paid for the collection you bought, or your gas to get somewhere to pick another collection up, or I don't know, buying 5K boxes or something. That's just because you sold a card doesn't mean that money was actually earned. It's not just, ooh, I have $50 now. It's, well, after everything, I have $5 left of that $50. Woo, go me. Cost of doing business. It is what it is. Just throwing that one out there, right? And then here we go. Going into the business that I am in, you have your local game store, right? From small ones like mine to big ones that are like, 4 or 5,000 square feet, or like Millennium Games, who takes up a whole strip mall, which is badass, by the way. Like, hats off to you, buddy. Um, like, big and small, LGSs are going to be the more conservative leaning, like, when it comes to buying your stuff, right? Because when you have a physical store like mine, not only do you have your bills at your house, right? And I don't care if you're by yourself or you're like me with a family or whatever, you're essentially, excuse me, what a lot of people I don't think correlate, or maybe they do, but they don't think about it enough, is that when you have a shop like mine and it's your sole source of income, you're paying two rents, you're paying two utilities, you're paying double insurances. So, like, when you have a shop, it's your basic bills that you yourself deal with, right? Like I said, rent, utilities, insurances, food, like random stuff like that, but it's doubled. And then on top of that, you have payroll, more insurances that you have to buy as a shop. There's taxes you got to worry about, accounting, if you hire an accountant, all that good stuff. Just general, there's more hands in your wallet than I think people actually understand or want to understand, and actually give an LGS not necessarily a break or leeway or whatever, but more of an understanding of why they typically don't offer 80 to 90% of what something is worth, right? Because it's just not feasible, right? Because, like I said, with the online seller scenario, just because you sell me a card or trade me a card or whatever, the card, be it a single or a sealed product or anything in between, it doesn't magically become just straight up money. It doesn't become profit. It doesn't just go right into my pocket, right? Because every time you sell me something or I buy something from you, trade in something or whatever, every piece of inventory that happens with an LGS, chunks of that goes to the double rent, the double utilities, double insurances, payroll, accounting, just general like upkeep for the store, supplies, et cetera, et cetera. That's why you can't, as a shop, typically come close to matching most of these other people. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes you can, but like most of the time, this is why your brick and mortar shops have their lower percentages than the other ones do, because the percentages are ultimately like misleading. Okay, let's just call it that. Because when you look at who's paying the highest percentage, that's kind of, I understand where you're coming from, but that's kind of the wrong question you need to ask yourself. Is like, not who is paying the highest, but why are these percentages the way they are, right? Once you kind of look at it like that, it might help you understand more of what's actually going on. Like, if you understand why a brick and mortar shop can't match anyone else's, and you're like, well, okay, cool, I actually like having a brick and mortar store within a 20-30 minute drive of me or something, maybe I'll just continue doing business with them so they're there. That's cool in the gang. Like, we appreciate that. But if you're just like, well, they're higher percentage, I get it. Like, cool, enjoy dealing with Facebook Marketplace and other groups and all that good stuff. Never necessarily rely on that to be a decent experience. Not saying going to an LGS will be like the best experience either, but like, you're less likely to get scammed or robbed, if you sell directly to a shop like mine, right? So the percentage isn't really the story. The percentage shouldn't necessarily be the end all when you're comparing these things. Like, why it is what it is should kind of be what you're trying to figure out, right? And then you get the whole sellers getting angry because the percentages vary from person to person or entity to entity, if you want to. Because, like I said, someone might offer 80, someone might be like, nah, dude, I don't want that at all. because it's like I said before, it's different businesses. There's a slightly different customer base, and then there's different goals within these entities, right? And because it's like, to hammer the point, the buyers aren't buying for the same thing. They're buying based on totally different risks, right? Because not every collection is going to have the same buyer. You know, if you have a huge vintage collection, you're most likely going to try to hit up a shop or whatever to sell it to a shop, right? Other than going on Facebook Marketplace or trying to piece it out on TCG Player or whatever, you're probably going to hit up a shop or hit up like Rudy or something like that, because it's safe, it's a one and done thing. They're going to take it, and if you have a decent collection, like Magic's kind of my thing. So like if you come in with dual lands, Power 9, stuff like that, like Wheels of Fortune, things like that, guys, cradles, you're not going to get the base rate. You're going to get a way higher rate because A, those things are hard to fucking come by, and B, they're expensive. And if I give you 75% or whatever, there's still enough meat left on the bones there, because those cards are worth a lot for me to even take on that risk of trying to sell them, right? And then you have like bulk buyers, like you're probably going to be on Facebook Marketplace or whatever trying to sell bulk, or it's just shops like mine, I buy bulk and stuff. But like the buyers are different, the sellers are going to be different. And like the best buyer isn't always going to be the highest buyer. It's actually the one who wants to deal, and I mean that in the best way possible, wants to deal with the stuff that you're bringing in to sell, right? Um, that's also another important part, is you have to kind of think about, if you're just bringing in a handful of cards, that's cool, no big deal. But if you're bringing in thousands upon thousands of cards, that's a lot of stuff to process. And whoever you're talking with, be it a backpack vendor or an online seller or a shop or whatever, they might not want to deal with that, right? Or they might offer you some kind of absurdly low amount because they look at those 30,000 cards and they're like, that is at least a full week of me you know, scanning, getting into the inventory, filing it away to where it is, like that's an entire week. Not like a normal work week of 5 days, but probably 7 days of processing something like that. Because at a shop, at least, you don't just get to sit down and process and stop, right? You get to sit down, process, customer comes in, stop. Deal with the customer, come back, process, another customer comes in, stop, Especially with a small shop like mine, I can't hire 12 people to work the shop, so I can't dedicate people for specific jobs and actually process stuff like that in a timely manner. And I think a lot of you who watch this are probably in the same boat as well, so you understand exactly where I'm coming from with that. But to kind of bring it all together, the next time you try to sell something to someone and you're looking around like you probably should or whatever, and someone offers you 80, another one offers you 60, another one says, well, I'll give you 55, and a fourth one just says, I'm not interested at all, man, sorry. Like, it doesn't mean that whoever offered the lesser is trying to rip you off. Let's be honest, sometimes that does happen. This is generalities here, everybody, so I'm not saying it's a thing, right? It just usually means that they've done a quick calculation in their head of what you're offering versus the risks and by risks, it's like the labor, just everything that goes involved with sorting your stuff, to selling your things, to, sitting down and looking through it all and all that good stuff. The fact that it might just sit there for weeks or months or whatever. So you got to kind of, I'm sorry guys, it's terrible out there. You got to kind of keep that in mind, right? because not all buyers are the same, to just bring that one back around too. And like, once you understand that, and once you are on my side and you're looking at them too to kind of put yourself in their position, like all sellers are not the same either, right? Some sellers don't know what the hell they're doing, some sellers know exactly what they're doing, and there's a nice little give and take there. It's kind of cool. But anyways, I just wanted to make this because I figure it's worth talking about, and didn't want to go into like specific percentages and bore everyone. Well, probably bored you with the video anyways, but like to just give you specific examples of, and yes, there are hybrids of each of the examples that I gave you, obviously. I'm not saying that these are the three that everyone fits into, but they're all, once you have the baseline for all three, you can understand where they're coming from when they offer you stuff, right? And if you're cool with just going to shows and getting the 80% or whatever from a backpack vendor, that's fine, great. I'm not even like, go you, you know? But also, if you go to a shop like mine or even an online seller or whatever and they offer you less, don't take it as a personal offense. Don't get butthurt about it. Just understand that the business models, they're not the same. There's a lot more risk involved in an opening of a shop like this than there is being a backpack vendor or even just an online seller, right? So keep that in mind, guys. Try not to be dicks to everybody who's out there buying and selling, trading, and all that good stuff, because that's where I think you run into most of the stuff you hear about. Well, person A is an ass. Well, why is person A an ass? They were only going to give me 40% on this card. What card is it? You know, there's more than just blanket percentages and blah, right? So, anyways, I guess that's all I got to say, guys. You have a good one. I'll talk to you probably tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If you have a topic you want me to cover, by all means, let me know in the comments. Other than that, like, share, sub, all that good stuff. I'll talk at you later. Remember, life is not a dick. You don't have to take it so hard. You're a trash can, not a trash can't. And again, the best thing you can do is just be like Nike and simply just do it and see what happens, you know? Take it easy, guys.